Welcome to the Ending Sexploitation podcast, where we decode sexual harm and provide you with active solutions. I'm your host, Kaylee McNamara. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Ending Sexploitation podcast. Today, we are going to be listening in on a presentation from the 2024 CESE Summit, the Coalition to End Sexual Exploitation Summit. Last week, we did this. We listened in on the issue of prostitution, hearing from a UN Special Rapporteur on the rights of women and girls on that issue. Today, we're going to shift and listen to a presentation around sextortion and its impact on youth, and also some exciting resources for youth. This presentation is by Kathryn Rifenbark. She is the director for the CyberTipline public reports in the Exploited Children's Division at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, often called NCMEC, where she has worked for over 14 years. And many of you will be familiar with NCMEC. They are the nation's clearinghouse for issues like child sexual abuse material or child pornography. They work very closely with law enforcement and are really preeminent experts on that topic. And so in addition to discussing the issue of sextortion, she's going to share about NCMEC's new anonymous and free service that can help to prevent the spread of online sharing of nude, partially nude, or otherwise sexually explicit images or videos of those under the age of 18. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll turn it over to Kathryn's presentation.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Today, I'm going to be talking about what we've been seeing at the National Center in regards to sextortion and the impact that it's having on survivors that are experiencing this type of victimization. I wanted to start off by talking about what children are facing today. Today's kids are really facing a lot of threats online. And I wanted to highlight a couple of different surveys that were released by Thorn that illustrates those threats. On this survey here, that's from 2020, the chart at the top will show you in what situations kids of different ages and different genders thought it was okay to share a nude picture with someone online. And I really want to highlight for you that 1 in 5 of teenage kids during the time of this survey said it was fine to share a nude online with someone if they were using an app where that picture would disappear after it was shared. That's important knowledge for us to know when we're talking to kids about these risks and really helping to educate them about what those risks are, even if they think that picture could be disappearing, what we know can still be occurring there. We also see that 40% of kids think it is normal for kids their age to be sharing nudes, but 60% of kids place the blame on the victim in these situations. That has a lot of impacts for reporting if someone is finding themselves in a sextortion or online enticement situation. If they think that those around them, their peers, their parents, their teachers, are going to blame them, then they're less likely to come forward and to get help in those situations. When we look at a survey that Thorn released in 2021, we can see that over the years of 2019 to 2021, the percentage of kids who thought it was normal for kids to share nude images online actually did decrease over that 2-year period. However, the percentage that were sharing images went up. So again, 14 to 22% of kids were still continuing to send those nudes, even though the overall perception that it was normal had decreased. And then finally, in this survey from 2022, it asks kids, how often have you received a request from someone you don't know online who is asking you for a nude picture? And 1 in 7 kids said that they had received a message like that daily or weekly, with 40% saying that they'd ever received a message. That's very surprising to hear that kids are receiving these messages daily or even weekly. Think about how often they're having to then navigate what to do in these situations and how to handle and get themselves out of that situation, and how that can really increase the risk for them to then feel the pressure to send that nude and be in a sextortion situation. When we look at youth-produced content, we see those types of images falling into several different categories. We know that sexting is becoming, like those surveys showed, more normal for kids in their normative sexual exploration. And we oftentimes see a child sending a nude picture to a peer, a boyfriend or girlfriend. And then that can really put them at risk for then if someone online is contacting them in a sextortion or online enticement situation and saying, I have something out there, I have something about you that you don't want anyone to know about. So you need to send me a nude picture or else I'm releasing this secret. They're going to think back to that nude picture that they sent to their peer, and they're going to worry that this offender, unknown offender online, has that picture and is going to release it. And for kids, they think, let me send this one nude picture to them. This situation will end. When in fact, we see that that then starts a possibly long-term abusive situation that they're in for maybe years, where they are having to send constant nude images. We've also seen more live streaming cases where the kids are on gaming platforms or other social media platforms where they're live streaming. And we see these offenders requesting in comments different sex acts that the child should perform. And then that offender, unknowing to the child, capturing that video or that picture and then distributing it online and possibly using it to blackmail them as well. In all of these cases, it's really important to remember that until we talk to the child, we don't know what led that child to send that nude picture. Was it something that they were sending to a peer that then got further shared, or was it a situation where someone was threatening them? So we always want to make sure that we're keeping that in mind. We're talking to that child. We're getting more information to figure out how best to help them based on what led them to taking that picture. No matter how that picture was taken in any of those scenarios, and no matter whether or not it is distributed online, the existence of the image is what is going to have the impact on the child victim. For so many victims that we talk about, even if they don't know that those pictures are traded online, they continue to think about the possibility of that picture being traded online into their adulthood. And that continues throughout their lifetime. And I want to talk for a moment about some of the common feelings that we see with these survivors of any type of CSAM production. We have heard from many survivors that they have a lot of fear. Where is that picture? Who has seen it? Where in the world has it been posted? A seemingly innocent question, walking down the street saying, "You look so familiar to me." For a survivor of imagery, that can be very triggering for them to think, has this person seen me in this abusive imagery? In situations of sextortion, where they're communicating with someone they don't know online, they also have a lot of fear because they have no idea who is on the other side of that computer. Is it a friend? Is it someone from school? Is it a friend's dad? Is it a neighbor, a coach? Is it someone on the other side of the world? They have no idea who is blackmailing them and coercing them to keep sending more pictures. So when that person is threatening them that they're going to come to their house and kill their family if they don't send a nude picture, as far as they know, that's something that the person could actually do. They don't know where they're located. We also see a lot of shame and embarrassment. A lot of times when these cases are coming out, if the offenders do post them online, they'll post them with the child's name, their school, any type of identifying information. It might get passed around the school with the kids sharing those pictures. So now all of their peers and their community know what pictures they took and what sex acts they had to perform. And for kids, that can make them feel very embarrassed, and that can prevent them from wanting to come forward and talk. We also know that offenders will require the child to smile in the pictures. And so again, if those pictures are getting passed around the school and they're having to do sex acts and look like they're enjoying it, what feelings is that survivor going to be feeling about, and what do they think others are thinking about them by the existence of those pictures? And then finally, we hear a lot about anxiety and dread about how those pictures are being used, about what offenders are doing with them now that they have them in their possession. Are they being used to groom other children, to entice other children to send nude pictures? Are they being used to create a fake profile and convince that child to send additional nude pictures? So these are all the feelings that we hear from all of the survivors that we work with at NCMEC. I want to talk a little bit about the data we have at the National Center. So our data is coming in through our CyberTipline, which is our reporting mechanism for online sexual exploitation. Survivors, family members, members of the public, as well as companies can report into the CyberTipline through cybertipline.org or through 1-800 The Lost, our call center. And I know a couple of my colleagues already spoke over the last 2 days about the report volume that we've had in the last year. So I want to focus specifically on online enticement and sextortion reports. In our online enticement category, that's going to also include sextortion. And you can see here that every single year, we've had an increase in the year totality. So between 2021 and 2023, we had over a 300% increase in the reports involving online enticement and sextortion that came into the National Center through CyberTipline. And each year, just in quarter one, it has surpassed quarter one from the prior year. But you can see that in 2024, that is already set to surpass, almost surpass the entire year of 2023. So our first quarter of 2024 was getting very close to the total number of reports from 2023. So we're seeing, again, another huge increase in these reports this year. I also want to take a moment to talk about financial sextortion, which I believe my colleague Michelle mentioned on Monday. But similarly, over the last couple of years, we've seen this new type of sextortion emerging, and we continue to see those reports increasing every year. And again, the first quarter of this year is surpassed the first quarter of last year. When we take a look at financial sextortion, in these situations, they're often targeting males. When we look at the sextortion where the offender's goal is to obtain more nude pictures, that oftentimes is targeting female victims. Financial sextortion is going to target teenage boys, and it is going to be a very quick, from that first cold solicitation on social media to then getting that child to send a nude and then blackmailing them for large sums of money. We also see that these offenders are using very aggressive threats, not letting the child step away from their phone, constantly messaging them, threatening about sharing with family and friends, ruining their life, making them go viral, sharing countdown timers that they have to send X amount of money within a couple of hours. And that puts that child into a situation where they're enduring this constant blackmail and coercion for several hours. It's also usually happening in the middle of the night. So these kids are isolated from their resources. They're probably sleep deprived. They're trying to handle this situation on their own. And unfortunately, for some of the victims, this does result in them taking their own lives. They feel like dying by suicide is the only way to end this abuse. And in these cases, sometimes we even see the kid is deleting all of their social media messages so the parents will have no record of what was going on before that child made that decision to die by suicide. Here is some text from a report that we had to give you an idea of the types of threats that are coming through. So I have everything I need to ruin your entire life. I have your nudes and the complete list of all of your followers. If you don't comply with me now, I'm going to keep sending this until it goes viral to all your friends. Cooperate with me and I won't expose you. Any attempt to block me, I swear I'll ruin your entire life. So for a kid, they feel a lot of lack of hope, a lot of desperation, that there's no way out of this situation. And Thorne recently released a study on all of our financial sextortion CyberTipline reports at the National Center. This slide here illustrates the impacts that they've found from analyzing our reports. And you can see that in about 15.6% of reports, children were discussing suicide and self-harm. We also saw that 1 in 5 of those kids that did make a payment, their pictures were then leaked anyway. So we want to emphasize for kids that paying the extorter does not end the blackmail, does not end the situation they're in. So let's talk a little bit about what to do and what hope kids can have in these situations. Here at the National Center, if a kid comes to us or a parent reports into us, we want to make sure they know that they're not alone. The offender in any type of sextortion, whether it's financial or with requests for more images, is really working hard to make that child feel isolated and alone, and like this is a huge secret that they can't tell anyone about, or there will be very bad consequences. So we want to reassure that child they're not alone. And as we've seen in those numbers, many children are being impacted by sextortion every single day. Their primary concern is usually going to be the images that are online. So we want to reassure them that we have resources, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, that can help to get those images removed. We also want to make sure that the blame is going on the blackmailer, not on that child victim. From that earlier thorn slide that I showed, they might be blaming themselves, and we want to make sure that they know it's not their fault. The blackmailer was the one to blame, and that the blackmailer did a really good job at making a fake profile, convincing that child that they were someone that they were not, likely not. We always want to encourage the child to report the account to the social media platform, as well as block that individual. But we don't want them to delete their accounts because that might have really useful information for law enforcement. And then, as I said earlier, paying money to the blackmailer rarely stops the situation. So we want to encourage them to consider that if they're making that decision. And we also want to reassure them that these are situations that really need adult assistance. And that although they want to try to handle it on their own, they really do need to get help from someone in their life that can help them through this situation. And finally, we want to make sure that they know that there is hope. Again, they're feeling a lack of despair. They're feeling despair and a lack of hope, and we want to make sure that they know that there is a way to get out of this situation and they can move forward. I want to talk about the resources that we have at the National Center for Survivors and Caregivers. I'm going to be focusing on our technical support, which is removal of images and videos online. But we also have legal support where we can connect a family or a survivor who's experienced child sexual exploitation with an attorney who can help them with any legal issues they might have related to that exploitation. We also have emotional support. We can connect them with a mental health provider in their area who's been trained on how to handle child sexual exploitation material survivors. We also have a peer support network, caregivers, family members, as well as survivors once they're over 18 that were victimized as a minor. They can get connected to other survivors and other caregivers or family members who have experienced a similar type of victimization and have that peer support. And then finally, we have a lot of resources on our website, as well as at our booth here, that are going to be for survivors and families around information about what sextortion is, or if you have experienced sextortion, information on how to get all of these resources that I'm talking about today. We also have training modules online for professionals as well. For anyone that's looking for assistance with removing images and videos of a minor online, we have several different ways that the survivor can get help. We want to make sure that survivor has choices in the way that they're interacting with the National Center. So we have three main ways that they can get help. They could choose to utilize one of those. They could choose to utilize all three of those. The first one would be making a report to the CyberTipline, which we do want to encourage them to do if they can report the account information. If the pictures are posted publicly online, they can make a report to us with that information, and we will notify the company of that explicit picture online and request the removal. That does involve working with law enforcement, and so we know that can be a hindrance for some survivors who might not want to go that route. So we have a couple of other options as well. We have a section of our website called Is Your Explicit Content Out There? And on this section of our website, they can find directions on how to report to the company themselves. It's going to walk them through the exact buttons that they need to push, the options they need to select to report an image, a video, a post, or a user to most of our major social media platforms. This will provide that survivor a chance to take back some of the control that they might feel like they're losing in this situation. And we do update this frequently based on what we're seeing in reports. So if we start seeing a new company being reported into us, we'll add that. We also check our directions every quarter to make sure they're still accurate and up to date. And then finally, we have Take It Down, which is our newest resource. This allows survivors, if they have the picture or video of them as a minor on their phone or computer, they can utilize Take It Down. This is completely anonymous and allows us to capture some file information that is then shared with participating companies who can scan their platforms, remove that file, and report it into the National Center. Take It Down has been translated into many different languages, as you can see on my screen capture here. So it's available for survivors all over the world. It's not just US survivors, but it is just pictures of someone that was a minor. We have a flyer that's available on our website in both Spanish and English. and at our booth that talks through the steps that are needed to utilize this tool. And I'm also going to play a short video.
Take It Down is a free service that can help you remove or stop the online sharing of nude, partially nude, or sexually explicit images or videos taken when you were under 18. It's easy. Start by answering 3 simple questions. Select the image or video you're concerned about, and don't worry, it won't leave your device. And submit. You don't even have to share your name or other information. For more info, visit takeitdown.ncmec.org.
So as the video said, it's a very easy tool for kids to use. It's really important that they know this tool is out there so that if they are dealing with this situation and they feel like they have nowhere to go and no one that can help them, they at least have this tool that they can utilize, and we don't collect any information from them. It's completely anonymous. And we've had, in an average week, we receive about 900 to 1,000 submissions through this tool. So it is used very frequently, and we continue to see increases in that as well. Okay, that is all that I have for you all today, and this is my contact information if you'd like to reach out with any questions. Thank you.
I'm wondering what the breakdown of who's reporting on the CyberTipline. Is it often families, or you mentioned agencies?
Yeah, the vast majority of our reports do come in from companies due to the legislation that requires companies report to us. That's 99% of our reports. When we look at our public reports, it depends on the case type, but for things like sextortion and online enticement, those reports are often coming from the child victim themselves or their families.
It seems that this is a way bigger problem. Is it just more reported, or is it, in fact, way more than we understand?
I would certainly speak at the National Center. We have different programs of work that we do. So our CyberTipline does not receive as many reports of familial sexual abuse because that is just not that's more not necessarily in our purview, but in our child victim identification program, which works with law enforcement who have identified victims seen in CSAM. Yes, a lot of those reports are coming in regarding a familial or close relationship. So I think that everything is occurring in high numbers. I know that I was certainly focusing on online enticement and sextortion today, but we do also see a large amount of CSAM production happening in child sexual abuse situations where the offender is close to that child and then capturing that through imagery. Children are going to face risks no matter when they're provided that phone. And so I think what Kristen said about educating parents is very critical. It's important for parents to know that they do have a responsibility to have communication on those risks with their children from an early age and often, and that they should be establishing those open lines of communication with their kids so that if their kids are faced with a risk online, they have that safe space to come and talk to that parent, and that parent can help them to report that or to get other resources.
All right. Thank you all so much for listening today. We will put a link to NCMEC's website and their Take It Down resource in the show notes. Please remember to rate, subscribe, share this podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us in Ending Sexploitation.